Next, we're going to take a look at the research that supports ground rules. A lot of this research was done by Professor Poole herself and our colleague at Montclair State University in the Center for Child Advocacy and Policy, Jason Dickinson. And if you take a look at the bottom here, the bullet points, that's where Professor Poole picks up with the research in the field that supports the utility of, the importance of ground rules. So we'll go over the first two bits of research that support ground rules at page 89. The first one says it doesn't take a lot of time to deliver the ground rules. So the potential benefits certainly outweigh the amount of time it takes to do the ground rules. The second thing that Professor Poole points out is that children tend to perform well when they're given ground rules. The ground rule instructions that they shouldn't guess have impact, and they work. So the research tells us, number one, it doesn't take a long time, and number two, they can be effective if they're done correctly. Okay, students, if you look up here, you'll see I put up another page 90 of Poole's textbook. And it's here that she continues describing how the research supports the usefulness of ground rules in a forensic interview of a child. The next bullet point, she makes the observation that when children made a mistake on a practice question, and you let them know they made a mistake, and you reinforce the ground rules, they did better later on. The ground rules were stickier. They didn't make similar errors. So that's important to know. She also emphasizes that the research supports the idea that when children practice the ground rules, they do a lot better. When children practice the ground rules, they're stickier, they're more effective, they're more likely to follow them. And the last two observations by Professor Poole, when she discusses the research and how it supports ground rules, she mentions something called scripted instructions right there in those two bullet points. In the scripted instructions, interviewers tended to do better. They tended to move on with the ground rules in a more effective way and not abandon the process when they had a script they could rely upon. So that was found to be helpful. And in the last bullet point, she observes that scripted ground rules for interviewers are quite helpful because sometimes the interviewers may offer a question that isn't crafted very well, that is too grown up for the child, or expressed in a way that's confusing for the child. And when the interviewer has a script to follow, they're less likely to commit an error, they're less likely to create confusion, and it's better for the child because they're less likely to be confused. So the script helps. This is an area where it's advisable to stick to the script.